I am going to introduce again our very first special guest, Tom Perez, who is the 26th U.S. Secretary of Labor and a proud Marylander. He served on the Montgomery County Council and as Secretary of Maryland's Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation. He lives here in Maryland along with his wife and 3 kids. At the federal level, he's focused on civil rights, ensuring a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, registered apprenticeship and on-the-job training programs, promoting gender equity in the workplace, you can clap, ensuring that people with disabilities and veterans have access to equal employment opportunity, and insisting on a safe and level playing field for all American workers. We very much appreciate that he's taken time out of his busy schedule to be here with us today as leaders of the labor movement in Maryland. Please give a warm MSEA welcome to Secretary Tom Perez.
Good morning. It's great to see so many educators. Thank you so much. Betty, thanks for your kind introduction. I've gotten to know Sean Johnson. I know he's here somewhere because I just talked to him over there. Sean, thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Cheryl, David, everyone. It's great to be back here with you, and I feel like I'm with a group of serial activists. And I always feel comfortable when I'm with a group of serial activists. And I want to start out by telling, what is on your head, ma'am? I love that. I love your orange. Okay, excellent. That's a serial activist with a twist. You know, I want to come and first of all say thank you, because when I think of MSEA, I can't help but think of how I was able to start my own political career in Montgomery County. When I ran for office in 2002, there were 2 main reasons I had the privilege of getting elected. This guy named Ike Leggett. Hey, Doug, how are you, man? Didn't see you over there. Doug's father was a serial activist extraordinaire, by the way. Keith Prouty, hell of a guy. A guy named Ike Leggett took a risk on me, and an organization called the Montgomery County Education Association took a risk on me, and I want to say thank you. And in 2006, when I ran statewide, a statewide organization, MSEA, took a risk on me as well. So I want to say thank you to all of you. But most importantly, I want to say thank you for what you do day in and day out. This past Monday was a federal holiday. I could be found at the Tacoma Park Middle School with my 8th grade son. I'm a proud parent, a proud public school parent. My oldest is now in college. My second oldest is a senior at Blair High School, and my little guy is an 8th grader at Tacoma Park Elementary School. And I'll tell you, just being there and watching the remarkable instruction that he receives and the support he receives from all the educators there really inspires me. I was walking out, and one of the school security officers, whom I've known for years, said, "I got your boys back. Don't you worry, Tom." You know, it's about a family. It's about a remarkable everyone there, from the teachers to the administrative assistants to the counselors to the cafeteria and custodial staff, from the security guard. I was at my daughter's field hockey game last night at Blair, and I ran into my other daughter's history teacher, and you know what? And he was her lacrosse coach. You all do so much, and you know what? Nobody gets rich in this job. We can stipulate to that. Or if you are getting rich, we need to call the Inspector General. But what we all know is that the non-monetary rewards are priceless for all of you, because I look around this room and I think about the remarkable people that I interact with around our schools. I had the privilege of giving the commencement address a couple years ago at Blair for my oldest daughter, who's now a college sophomore. And you know what? My speech wasn't nearly the best speech there. The speech by the student speaker was the best speech. An immigrant from Ethiopia. She arrived when she was in the 5th grade. She told me how shy she was. And there she was, 7 years later, giving the commencement address. Why was that? Because the support she received in the school system from everybody. That's what we're all about. She spoke no English when she got here, and she was the commencement speaker for her student. And I had another reminder last week of why you do such important work. I had the privilege of being with the President at the White House for a critical summit on worker voice. It was an incredible first-of-its-kind event where we brought together workers, advocates, labor leaders, CEOs, academics, economists, and more for a frank conversation about how we can empower workers on the job in a way that helps them earn better wages and benefits, but also strengthens their employers and creates a stronger economy that works for everyone. And we spent a considerable time focusing on the importance of unions as a powerful voice for worker voice. And one of the panelists was one of your own. And I hope you get a chance to watch it. A woman named Amberine Kahn Baker, who teaches AP Language and Composition at Rockville High School. And let me tell you something about Amberine. Amberine's got game. Amberine is the daughter of Pakistani immigrants. Her parents wanted nothing more than for her to go to college. But you know what? As she explained last week, and I invite you to watch this, they didn't know how to help her get there. They didn't know what a FAFSA was. They didn't know what an application was. And what happened? Where did she go for guidance and inspiration? She went to one of her teachers who had been her mentor throughout her career. That teacher gave her an application to American University and said, "You've got game, you've got a future, I'm always going to be there for you." And she got an 80% scholarship to American University, and that's because she had a mentor. Amberine represented you with great impressiveness, and now she's returning the favor and working with the next generation, because so many of her students, so many of your students face similar struggles and challenges that she did. Their parents don't have the tools and resources. And Amberine and all of you, whether you're a teacher, a paraeducator, another support person, whether you're a bus driver, whether you're working in the cafeteria, whether you're an administrator, whatever your station in this orchestra, you are all playing important instruments. And those instruments are enabling our children to realize their highest and best dreams. And what was most remarkable to me was the look of passion on Amberine's face as she spoke about her work. Happiest is the person whose job is their hobby, because you never have to work a day in your life. Amberine has found her calling. You have all found your calling. And she lights up a room with an infectious smile. And the reason she is so effective in bringing out the best in her students and in educating her fellow teachers is the skills and techniques she's acquired through training programs offered by not only the Montgomery County Education Association, but MSEA and NEA. When unions succeed, America succeeds. When unions succeed, our students succeed. And when unions succeed, everyone succeeds. And you know, I asked her, the last question I asked her when this panel was going on was, Amberine, what's a typical work week for you in terms of the number of hours? And she said, yeah, you all are laughing. And she gave the answer, which is, I suspect, the answer that y'all would give, which is that she works 60 plus hours a week. So you know what? To all of those who say teachers' unions are only looking out for themselves, that they don't care about the future of their students, they don't want to do anything to improve the quality of public education, I say that is, well, I'm not going to say the word that comes to mind. That is categorically offensive. And you know what? To the governor, when I listened to Amberine, I couldn't help but reflect the contrast. The governor of New Jersey, for instance, who said, you know what, I want to punch the teachers union in the face. That's what he said about teachers unions. You know, and by the way, he was endorsed by the governor of this state. And I don't know what it is about punching someone in the face that you find endearing. But you know what? I look around at what's being said about you and the work that you do. And frankly, that rhetoric has no place in our political discourse, especially from people who want to aspire to the Oval Office. Because here is one thing that we know is certain. Amberine is extraordinary, but you know what? In your world, she is not unique. I see hundreds like her in this room and thousands more across our state and across our nation. Incredibly hardworking professionals devoted not only to our children's future, but to building a better, stronger economy, a better, stronger America. And it's not simply teachers. It's the educational support professionals like the instructional aides, the secretaries, the custodians, the bus drivers, the computer techs, the lunch professionals, the administrators, the counselors, the psychologists, all of you. You may play different instruments, but we are all indeed in the same orchestra. And it is impossible to overstate the importance of the work that you do. In a nation where education is the engine of upward mobility, you are the pistons in that engine of upward mobility, and we should never forget that. And I say thank you. And when I look at your agenda for today, and I see the various breakout sessions, how we motivate middle schoolers with universal design for learning, how we do teacher-counselor alliances, how we deal with suspension, how we save our sons in the 21st century. This is about your unending concern for the well-being of our students. Education, my parents taught me, was the great equalizers and one of the best tools we have to ensure opportunity. Zip code should never determine destiny in this nation. And you are out to make sure that that basic value proposition is what we are. And you know, there's a study I recently read that demonstrated that one of the keys to success in both K-12 and in college is having a good mentor. Someone who has taken a personal interest in your future and making sure you're on the right path. Amberine is one of those people. You are all one of those people. My campaign manager's wife, who was a paraeducator, retired recently, she still has people coming to her house who are now adults saying, "Thank you for what you did for me in the first grade." That's what you do. You are doing so much. And as a result of what you are doing, you are helping the wind that's at our back in the economy. Because you know what? It's important as you sit here today for us to reflect on where we've been, where we are, and where we need to go. When the president took office, this economy lost 2 million jobs in the 3 months prior to when he took office. And now we've seen 67 consecutive months of private sector job growth. 67 consecutive months to the tune of 13.2 million jobs. There were roughly 7 job seekers for every job opening. Now there are about 1.5 job seekers for every job opening. As a result of the passage and implementation of the Affordable Care Act, we have lowered the ranks of the uninsured by unprecedented rates. Every single state in this country has seen a lowering in the ranks of the uninsured. That's never happened before. That's progress. But it's undeniable that we have more work to do. And it's equally undeniable when I think about who's in the front lines of this struggle to make sure that the economy works for everyone. Because the unfinished business is that we've got to make sure that the prosperity we're beginning to see is shared prosperity. An economy that works for everyone. Because America is best when we feel the full team. We are stronger together when only a few get a lot, but everyone else gets nothing. That's not America at its best. We can do better. We will do better. And you know what? You are at the front lines of addressing this because I've seen the work that you do. When a working family can't put a decent breakfast on the table because they earn poverty wages, it's you that pack an extra apple in your lunch to help those children. When our failure to provide paid leave or paid sick days means parents are putting kids on the bus with a fever, it's you that are the ones that are not only the educator, but the caretaker. When our communities face high crime rates and our children live in fear in their own neighborhoods, when environmental hazards or substandard housing leave children cold and sick, you are the ones that are providing that soothing and safe hand. When the deck is stacked against a child, when she's been dealt setback after setback, where do they go? They go to you. You're on that front line. You are their hope. And I have seen so many selfless acts that will never get reported, but acts that are invaluable. And these opportunity gaps, the unfinished business, that's what keeps me up at night. That's why I love my job at the Department of Labor. We are the Department of Opportunity, expanding opportunities. And in this job, I make house calls. I went to Baltimore in the aftermath of the unrest, sat there talking to young people. And I'll never forget talking to the young student who said, I don't have any AP courses in my high school. I got game, and I want to be challenged, and I need those AP courses. Another girl said to me, you know what? Sometimes she sleeps in and is late for school because the gunshots in her neighborhood keep her up at night. You understand these. And you know, when I met these kids, one thing was crystal clear to me. They're every bit as smart as my kids. What they lack are the opportunities. You're giving them those opportunities, and together we will do even better. You understand that we have to take a holistic approach. You understand the importance of critical thinking, adaptability, problem solving, creativity, and technical know-how. Things that can't necessarily be measured on a bubble test, but which are absolutely indispensable to the success in a modern economy. Your voices have been critically important. And you know what? I hope you will continue to make sure your voices are heard. Because as you know, right now there's a debate underway on the reauthorization of the MSEA. And your voice, the voice of the NEA, the voice of the AFT as well, have been indispensable. And we must continue to actively listen to the practitioners who are in the front lines, people like you. And you know what? The bill that passed the Senate, it's not perfect. That's clear. But it absolutely reflects your input. We've heard loudly and clearly from you the concerns that there is too much testing. And the consequences of testing are all too punitive. You need relief from the one-size-fits-all mandates of the No Child Left Behind. And you want to do more teaching rather than more testing. We've heard that. You want testing that is done to inform your instruction. And if it takes you months to get back the results of a test, that doesn't inform your instruction. So we've heard clearly what you have to say. And the debate on the MSEA very much illustrates the importance of your having a voice. Because we don't know what we don't know. You're in the front lines every single day. And that debate illustrates the importance of the labor movement. Because you know what? You are telling us not only what is good for our children, but is what is good for our communities. You understand how to close opportunity gaps, how to close achievement gaps. You understand how to increase our investment in STEM education. You understand the importance of career and technical education. And for those of you who are in career and technical education, I have one thing to say to you. Thank you for what you're doing. I had the privilege of going to the conference of career and technical educators in Nashville last year. And I did so for two reasons. To say thank you, that your work is important, that we as a nation have devalued that work over decades, that this president understands the importance, and that is why we are investing so much. I talk to parents about career and technical education and apprenticeship with regularity, and I tell them apprenticeship is the other college, except without the debt. And they understand that. There are many pathways to the middle class, and the work that you do in the career and tech ed context is absolutely invaluable to building a middle class. And so we have a lot of work to do. We have come a long way, but we have a lot of unfinished business. And you know what? In Maryland, part of the unfinished business involves making sure we have the proper investments in education. Because we may be one of the top states in the country, but we're not just competing against the other 50 states. We're competing against the whole world. I remember vividly when I was in local government and the GCEI passed. That was a critical piece of legislation. And you know what? That legislation needs to be implemented. And regrettably, with the governor's decision not to release the GCEI funding, our school districts are suffering. We cannot take it to the next level. And you know what? I'm a big believer that budgets are moral documents. They reflect the priorities of a leader and the values of a community. And so if you want a window into someone's values, look at how they spend their money and how they choose not to spend their money. And so we need to move forward on this. And you know, I hear a lot about business climate. And when I talk to businesses, and I talk to a lot of businesses, folks, I ask them, what makes you want to locate somewhere? And they tell me, I look at physical infrastructure and I look at human capital infrastructure. If you're investing in your people and you have a well-trained workforce, I want to be in your state. But when we underinvest in education, we diminish that human capital infrastructure and we diminish our ability to compete. So we've got a lot of work to do in that area, and we will continue that work. And I'll tell you, as we think about the unfinished business and the work ahead, one of the things I need your help the most on is to stand up to these baseless, unfair attacks on collective bargaining and unions across America. I need your help in that. I look at the Republican primary for president, and it is a cottage industry to attack unions. There's one candidate for president who compared his opposition to unions with fighting terrorists. I need to correct myself, though. He's a former candidate for president. You know, there's another candidate still in the race who said we should abolish teachers' lounges. And this is what he said: if I were king in America, I would abolish all teachers' lounges where they sit together and worry about woe is us. I'm not making this up, my friends. This is a quote. And there is still another candidate whose solution to the tragic school shootings was to arm all kindergarten teachers. That's what we're getting. And I'm here to tell you, you know what? I want to arm all the educators, but I want to arm you with the tools, the supplies, the resources, the budget, the equipment, the partnership that we need to educate our children and to build a brighter future for Maryland, America, and our world. That's what I want to arm you with. Our teachers and our unions, you are what keep us moving. And you know what? I'm not talking about conjecture. Look at the evidence. When the greatest generation came home from World War II, what did they do? They built the union movement. And when collective bargaining was at its strongest, the middle class was at its strongest. When unions succeed, America succeeds. We've seen it. It's not just a correlation, it's a causal link. A union member earns on average over $200 a week, more than a non-union member. And that doesn't include the benefits. And what we see from what you do is that it's not only about your wages and benefits. It's about the fact that you know education. And you can help us build education that is world class. Unions reduce income inequality. You enhance retirement security. You improve our overall quality of life. You, in short, reinforce the very best of American values. And you know what? Make no mistake about it, because there is an absolutely well-organized attack on all of us. And you know that, but we have to be mindful of it, because if we're going to build an America that works for everyone, workers need to have a voice. And workers need to have a voice. One way to have a voice is to make sure we have collective bargaining. There are those who have manipulated the rules and swung the economy out of balance, and those are the same people who want to destroy the union movement. One was caught on a hot mic saying, you know what, I wake up every day trying to figure out how to screw unions. Not a paraphrase, but that was a quote. But you know what, my friends? When you screw with unions, you're screwing with the middle class and with the livelihoods of millions of working people. And these folks, these wealthy special interests, are using their power right now because they want to launch the attack on public sector unions, teachers, firefighters, those remarkable people who are social workers, police officers. I don't understand it. They apparently believe that the Gilded Age was a golden age in America. Those of you teaching history need to teach them that the Gilded Age was not a golden age. Those of you who teach history need to teach them that when you blow out your neighbor's candle, it doesn't make your candle shine any brighter. That's what my parents taught me. And you know what? That's what they're trying to do. They're saying to you, hey, Mr. Jones, Mr. Prouty, you don't have a pension and your neighbor does. We got to go after your neighbor so he doesn't have a pension. You know what I say? Hey, Doug, your neighbor doesn't have a pension. We're all going to work together to help your neighbor get a pension. That's what we should do. America works best when we feel the full team, when everyone has access to opportunity. And this Friedrichs case is a frontal assault on collective bargaining. They're asking the highest court in the land to overturn long-standing rights that have helped tens of millions of people punch their ticket to the middle class. And this is long-standing precedent. You know what, folks? It's called free riders. When you put something in, you should be able to get something out. And if your neighbor doesn't put something in, why should they get a free ride? That's what this is about. They want to end these fair share fees. And by the way, it's not just about ending fair share fees. The broader agenda is they want to silence your voice. I need to hear your voice if we're going to improve the quality of education for our children. I don't want to silence your voice. I don't want to punch you in the face. I want to give you a hug and say thank you for all you're doing day in and day out. And I'll tell you, you may hear from time to time, you know what? This isn't going to, we're going to lose this case. We're going to lose this case. I want to tell you a story about the last term of the Supreme Court. They said we were going to lose gay marriage. They said we were going to lose the affordable health care case. And there was another case that I worked on that you may be less aware of. It was a case involving the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. And it was a remarkably important piece of legislation. And there was a case in front of the Supreme Court that was going to challenge whether you could prove discrimination under the Fair Housing Act case. I had worked on a case of this nature when I was in the Civil Rights Division, and we were able to settle it before it got to the court for decision. And the reason I bring this case up is that all the pundits said that this case is going to be the death knell for the Fair Housing Act. And I'm proud to tell you they were wrong. And I'm even prouder to tell you that in a footnote dissenting from the opinion, Justice Thomas cited Tom Perez by name. And I wear that as a badge of honor, my friends. And I tell you here today, you know what? We will succeed because we are on the right side of this issue. And we are on the right side of the law. And you know what? I leave you with this thought. Because you know, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. But you know what, folks? It does not bend on its own. It bends only when we all work together. And I have seen it bend toward justice. When I was working in the Civil Rights Division years ago, I remember going to Alabama in the aftermath of some horrific legislation they passed. Anti-immigrant legislation. And you know what? We were able to bend that arc a little bit back toward justice because I met with teachers in Birmingham. I met with teachers in rural Alabama, and they were at the front line saying this is wrong. In 1995, I worked with Senator Kennedy, and there was an immigration bill, and there was a provision in that House version of the immigration bill that would have allowed states to kick undocumented kids out of public schools. That provision never passed. Why? Because teachers and police officers and parents stood up and said the arc of the moral universe will bend toward justice. This is not justice. I have seen in Minnesota more recently, in Anoka County, when we were trying to work on the issue of bullying of kids who are LGBTQ, I saw teachers stand up with us and help bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. And here at home in Maryland, day in and day out, I watch you bend that arc, whether it's advocating for funding, whether it's making sure we deal with the school suspension issue, whether it's making sure that kids with disabilities have equal educational opportunity, whether it's making sure we continue to crank up CTE education to provide those opportunities. I watch you bend that arc of the moral universe every single day. And that's why I leave you with remarkable optimism. Because you know what? We have faced situations like this in our nation's history before. You teach about the Know Nothing movement. That's Donald Trump in the 19th century. That movement didn't survive then. It won't survive now. And it won't survive because of people like you, educators who are part of the orchestra of opportunity, day in and day out. You are out there organizing. You are out there advocating. You are out there empowering. You are out there partnering. You are out there making a difference every single day. And that is why I'm proud to be here with you today to say thank you, to say keep up the work, to say we have undeniable headwinds, but to say you have a partner in President Obama, you have a partner in everyone in our administration, and together we will continue to build a stronger America. A stronger America in which zip code never determines destiny, in which we light everybody's candles, we don't blow them out, an America in which everybody has an opportunity to realize their highest and best dreams. Thank you to Anne Barine. Thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you for helping make my kids, and my kids aren't easy to educate, but thank you for helping to make them into adults, and thank you for what you do every single day. Appreciate your time.